Hi, I'm Chris Fleming, the creator of Spirit Talk. You're listening to the podcast where I'll be bringing you the greatest thinkers, researchers, and contributors from around the world to discuss what we know in the field of the paranormal, life after death, and the pursuit of higher consciousness. Hey, it's Chris Fleming. Welcome back to this month's episode of Spirit Talk. Now, a lot of you out there that are interested in the paranormal, you're pretty aware that there's a lot of new paranormal shows coming out. We've got Travel Channel that converted to basically all paranormal. We have A&E that's rebooting a couple shows and some new ones that are coming out. And even other networks and streaming services are getting into broadcasting and airing paranormal content. On this episode, I want to talk about one of those shows and my guest that is now on that show. Some of you know that some shows have been tossed around and being rebooted, and two of them have just aired this past week: Ghost Hunters and Psychic Kids. Some of you may remember Psychic Kids was out back in 2008 to 2010. Did 3 seasons. Chip Coffey was the host. I made a couple appearances on a couple episodes along with Kim Russo. And our therapist, the second and third season that we worked with, was Edie Nathan. Well, my guest, Ryan Michaels, is now on the reboot of that show. And I worked with him on the episode called The Lost Soul, I believe, that was in 2010. Ryan was only around 16 years old when I first met him, and we investigated and worked on a case together. The one thing I noticed right away about this guy was he was very honest, grounded, and extremely passionate in wanting to help people. The first thing that you noticed about him is that he wanted to make a difference. Well, it's interesting. We worked on this particular case, Brian Sullivan case. This kid had disappeared back in 2007, I believe. And we went and pursued certain clues, and we did certain things to try to communicate and find out where Brian Sullivan was. Ryan has remarkable abilities, and the one thing that was really interesting is because of his passion, he opens himself up to the spirit world to receive messages. And the message we got way back then, which a lot of it you did not get to see in the program, was incredible. Very revealing, and stuff that nothing was told to anybody, even on the crew or in production. And Ryan was presenting it. A lot of it was remote viewing, doing some drawings, drawing some of the entrances to this forest, and giving some important messages. Well, now we fast forward, and we are in 2019, 9 years later, and he is a part of the Psychic Kids reboot. Now, I just watched the premiere episode, and we're going to talk about that. Ryan, thanks for coming on Spirit Talk.
Thanks so much, Chris, for having me. It's a pleasure.
My friend, we talked a couple times in the past, and time flies so fast. There's so many things I want to ask you, because obviously this has been a huge week for you with the premiere of Psychic Kids. Let's start with that. How is it going? How do you feel that the show aired? Tell us.
It's going amazing. I've been filming for the last 6 months and been working with AETV for the last year. And while you're in that moment filming, while you're in that moment mentoring and being a part of something that you can't really put together in your mind, and then for the weeks to just fly by and finally air, I was a mixture of emotion. I was so excited, but yet so nervous, and just to be a part of mentoring these children and a part of what changed my life forever, becoming full circle Psychic Kids. And it's
right.
just been, it's been a crazy week.
I want to read the Psychic Kids description, because everyone out there is used to the Psychic Kids with having an older adult as the medium that would guide these kids and work with a therapist. But they created a slightly different concept this season, and I think it's really great. Let me read this to you. 10 years ago, the original Psychic kids chronicled the journeys of children who were learning to control their extraordinary abilities, and it changed their lives. In 8 all-new episodes, those original kids, who are now successful young adults, will work to empower a new generation of young psychics. They will spend time with the children and their families to assist them not only in taking control of their paranormal abilities, but also showing them the remarkable power of their immense gifts. And that's what this new season is all about, and it just aired the premiere on Wednesday, August 21st. Where were you, Ryan? Did you watch it with any friends, any family?
So a friend of mine who owns a local restaurant invited us over. So me and some friends and family went over, had dinner, had a premiere party, really spent some valuable time together talking about the show.
I'm sure it's a good moment to see your work on TV, but then also when you see it from a different vantage point, I mean, everybody else is witnessing it as well. How do you feel about that? What goes through your mind when you see yourself working with these kids and you see that the kids' faces light up because they have someone that understands? How does that make you feel?
I feel so fulfilled when I watch some of these playbacks and episodes. For example, at the end of the premiere, Ethan, the child that I was mentoring, did diary cam, which is something that I don't know his thoughts of me. I don't know how he felt or his emotions when he's talking these diary cams. And then to see him explain that he thought I was, a really good mentor and that I made a difference, I made a change. It makes you teary-eyed. It brings a lot of emotion forward because, we are with these kids for a short period of time, but we are with them for such a long portion of those couple of days that you truly do get them to open up and make a difference in their lives.
Yeah, it was interesting in that episode when you worked with Ethan. I mean, he was bullied by kids at school. He didn't really have anybody to talk to about these abilities, so he was a little scared about it. And you can see that in his mannerisms, his body movement, and the way he talks. He just doesn't want to open up, and you mentioned that in the show. But I think the one part that you started to break through was you were very patient with him. And then you said that being different is okay. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I am very realistic in a way that these children, in my opinion, and everybody, of course, has a different one, but they are different. They are experiencing the world so differently, not from just other children, but from other even adults. They're viewing it so empathetically and so pure, and they're seeing a world that has true potential for what it really is, genuine. And they are different in how he views this world and people and spirit and energy. And I want them to know that. I want them to know, yes, you are different, but different is not a bad thing because everybody should embrace what makes them different, not hold that in and be afraid of what people will think or how people will judge.
Well said. When you were working with him, I could see that you were slowly building that rapport and getting him to open up. And when he finally did, there was 2 parts. One was he started to feel more comfortable working with you. And when he would say some things, you would tell him, well, yeah, I'm getting the same thing, or this is what I'm getting, and that's what he's getting. But then his face, when you guys were at the mansion, and he's telling the expert, you've got the photograph, you've got the details with 50 years, and I'm sure there was probably some other things that he brought up too that didn't make it on the show. Tell us about that reveal, what it was like for you to see this kid you'd been working with for the past few days to realize that he was accurate.
That was the key moment while working with him that really opened his eyes because he walked in so nervous to work with spirit, to work with energy, but yet was receiving information that he constantly questioned. So we walked in and he instantly looked at the chandelier, which you saw on air on the premiere, and he pictured it swaying back and forth. And when I looked up, I had pictured the chandelier swaying. Also, I could hear the rattling of the crystals, the chandelier waving. And at the end, one of the most common experiences that people have when they arrive or stay at the mansion was seeing the chandeliers move.
Wow, okay.
And I explained to him that the simplest of things sometimes are the most powerful things to bring through and will mean the most. And when we saw the gentleman that was attached to the home, and it looked like the gentleman who we found out to be Teddy Roosevelt in the picture. And we both knew who was on the picture. We both also knew that the chances of that spirit being, Teddy Roosevelt was slim to none, but it looked identical. And then for him to bring out the photo, and it was basically Teddy Roosevelt's twin.
Yeah, I saw it, yeah.
It was crazy, and it was at that moment that Ethan was validated for the first time, not just by me saying, yes, other people have these abilities, but he was validated in a way that proved his abilities.
Right.
And that was a moment for him that I truly believe was a very key point in his life with his abilities.
Yeah, it was very impressive, and it was good that his family witnessed this too, because they're his biggest support mechanism. To have his parents get that validation that, listen, your son is doing something that not everybody does because he's open to it. And it's going to help him a lot because now they realize that, there's something very powerful, very important that's going on here.
Yeah. And, I gave the family techniques and things to do in order to do these tasks, because it's so important for him to continue working with these abilities. Because oftentimes what happens is he had this experience, he got to go to a location, he got to walk through, become validated, but then that might not happen again for him for years. And I want to give the family techniques and ways that he's still able to validate his abilities. Right. Because the validation and knowing, one of these things that each kid kind of explains to me is that they feel crazy. They feel like some of the information's coming through just isn't real, like they're making it up, and they're torn between, am I making this up? Yeah. But they're not. But because other people tell them so, they start to believe it. So for other people to slowly explain to them, no, this is real. This is true.
Right.
That kind of sets aside all the negativity that people have kind of put on these children over the years. And it starts to make that negativity fade away and take what these children view as a curse and turn it into the gift part.
It's the thing is, like, people listening is you have this intuition and something pops into your head and then, wow, a few minutes later or later that day, it happens or you experience it. Well, it's an awareness of consciousness where consciousness expands. There's no validation of time and space when events occur because some of them are already happening simultaneously. And this gets into quantum physics. But from a standpoint of you get something and there's nothing to confirm it, then you're like, okay, and then you get something else, there's nothing to confirm it because you don't have access to that to confirm it with. You're kind of like, all right, why are I getting all these thoughts? Where are they coming from? But like you said, when he gets that validation, because the guy was there to basically pull out a photograph and show you. The guy was there to validate, well, 50 years means, this, and that's true. They were here for 50 years. So when you don't have access to that, you just have this information coming and going, and it doesn't build your confidence, like you said. For him to have this, it builds his confidence, but there's going to be times where he doesn't get the actual answers to validate it, and you get frustrated because you don't know.
Yeah, and that's the hardest part to try to explain to these children, that you just got to trust the information that's, coming your way, and the information that you're being chosen to receive from Spirit is the only thing that's important. And I do try to explain to them, validation, yes, it helps you to be comfortable with your abilities. It helps you to take control of your abilities in the sense of giving you the answers in which you seek. But that's not what's important. What's important is to strengthen these abilities because you have been chosen. And when it comes to people, I think that the pressure society puts on psychics and mediums for validation and proof of our, I guess, way of life or existence, if that's what you want to say, is what makes it so hard on these children. Because, I mean, what happens? You meet somebody as a psychic, as a medium, as a sensitive. You meet somebody, the first thing they say is, "Oh, can you tell me something?" Or, "Do you see something about my future?" It all comes down to proof.
Right.
If something has to be validated. And that's what these children need to understand. That's not important. That's what society wants for us. But realistically, that's not always how things work. And you just have to have faith in you, and you have to have faith in the information that's coming through, and know that you have been chosen, that you are a very special individual to receive these abilities, and to have not let them fade, and to have worked with them, and to let go of society's needs for people in this field, because they make it so difficult for these children, because it doesn't matter of an age.
Right.
A 9-year-old tells somebody about their abilities. "Can you tell me something? Do you see anything? What do you see around me? Can you tell me my future?" And it's the same for me. And I'm 25. And I'm sure it's the same for individuals that see and communicate with spirit and receive information that are even older than me. And it makes it so difficult for these children, because they're constantly in the mindset of, I have to prove. People have to believe me. In order for them to believe me, I have to give proof.
Right.
And that's not what it's about.
Exactly. And it's tough if you don't have that validation. It's tough if you don't have people to support you and say, "Oh, it's your imagination. It's this, it's that." When you were growing up, did you have any of those challenges? I mean, did you have someone to go to with your abilities to talk about?
I did. So I spoke with my aunt, who I called Uncle Rose, a lot about my abilities. A couple of my friends I would speak to them about, but I got involved with Lilydale, New York, which is the world's largest and oldest spiritualist community in the world. And I went there and made a lot of friends who are in who work in this field. And I think that helped me, being in a community that dedicates, I guess, the paranormal as a way of life, the metaphysical field as a way of life, that are so open, that really helped me. But it was not easy, and it was for the same reason that I had just explained, is when I'm trying to tell people and open up and trust somebody with my abilities, the first thing they asked me, their first response was, "Well, do you see anything with me?" So I just spent a whole hour finally trusting somebody, opening up, to not be told, "Oh, I can't imagine how you're going through that. I can't imagine how this way of life is for you. But, oh, can you tell me something?" And that's hard. That's harder than most people think, to open up and to be asked to give some type of immediate proof every time.
Every time you meet somebody, and Ryan, it doesn't matter if you're 10 years old, 25, or my age. No matter where I go, when I get introduced to people and someone brings it up, they said, "Oh, can you read me?" First thing out of their mind, "Can you read me?"
Right.
And then I'll sometimes say, "Do you really want me to? Do you want all the deep, dark secrets?" And then sometimes they'll be like, "No," and they'll walk away. And then sometimes, "Oh yeah," So yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's like you don't tell a doctor when doctor shows up at a party or something, he's a heart surgeon, "Oh, can you operate on me right now?" You know what I mean? It's, or a professional athlete and say, "Oh, can you go throw a football around? Can you or a mathematician, "Oh, can you do some mathematics for me?" It's like people feel they want you to prove it to them right away.
Yeah. And it's frustrating. I have time set aside where I do readings for people, and I have time set aside where I work with police departments on missing person cases, and time set aside for consultations, advising sessions, and mentoring. And that's when, in quotations, I prove to people what I do. But to be in this constant mindset of, I have to constantly prove yourself is so tiring. And yes, I'm directing this towards me, but this is about these children, because you can see how I'm explaining it about myself. Now put that on a 9-year-old. That's a lot.
Absolutely.
That's a lot.
On the show, I saw that Perry was working with Kendall, which was remarkable just as well. And the dynamics of the concept of the show, with having the kids from previous psychic kids from 2008, 2010 come back now that they're a little bit older and work with younger kids. At first, people were a little skeptical about it, this and that. But when they see that how much you guys have learned in 9 years, and it is just remarkable because your rapport with these kids are phenomenal. Like when Perry was working with Kendall, it was just as amazing. And I like how they edited the show back and forth between both sets of kids, with you and Ethan, and with Perry and Kendall, and it would go back and forth. And I really enjoyed that because it was not only, of course, entertaining in watching it, but it was remarkable to see the personal relationships that you guys were building with them, and to see these kids just lighten up to say, hey, I can express myself. I can now, I'm in a comfort zone with people that understand, that want me to open up to them, and you see them do it, and I'm like, wow, I'm like, good job, Ryan, good job, Perry, good job, A&E, for really being organic and honest with the show to allow these kids to express themselves. And I just, congratulations, man. It's really cool. And I know it's just the first episode and you guys got a bunch more, but it's great to see this because this has been missing for 9 years. I know when we got the call, because we had done 2008, 2009, 2010, we did the third season, and I did, I think it was 3 episodes on the third season. I was in Jamaica. We were shooting this pilot with the same production company that does Psychic Kids. And we got the phone call that, A&E said that, they're not bringing the show back for a 4th season. We were devastated. We were like, why? What's going on? And then I remember I talked to Chip on the phone and I talked to Edie on the phone, and we were all devastated because we knew over those 3 to 4 days working with the families, working with the kids, the impact we were making not only in the family and the kids' lives. We have changed lives. We have brought families together, but also where these kids can now go out there with a support system, and they can confront some of the negativity, some of the skepticism, because now they have that validation. They have people that support them. But then that airs on TV, and all the people that don't get the opportunity to bond with people like ourselves and to go through this program, that now can watch the show, that enlightens them, that helps them in understanding that this is real. And it's great to see the show come back now because I feel that's kind of needed. You have a lot of ghost hunting shows where they just go ghost hunt, but they don't work on the psychic abilities. They don't work on the mediumship. They don't work on understanding why ghosts will appear to you and try to communicate with you. And now that the series is back, people have that opportunity to learn from it. So that's what I think is really cool, the fact that they rebooted it.
Yeah, and there's nothing like Psychic Kids. There's never been, there never will be. Psychic Kids is just an original series that truly dedicates itself to helping these children and to allow people to understand how spirit connects and to work at boundaries and to take control. And it's a way of life too. And something that I learned from you when you were my mentor, and then I'm trying to get back to these children that I'm mentoring, is the advice that you give me, the advice that you gave me, and still give, because we've always kept in communication over the years, is how to deal with negative spirits, how to kind of get these negative spirits to leave you alone and to invite the positive in and to communicate with the positive. And it's a way of life. Everything that you've given to me can be applied to actual people too. And this isn't just about the paranormal in a sense, because taking control of your abilities, taking control of one aspect of your life, that can be applied to, family, friends, education, relationships. It's a way of life. And the advice that you give and we've received, and I'm trying to give for these children to receive, isn't just with spirit, but it is. It's with everybody, family, friends, relationship. It's just truly for life.
No, thank you. And I appreciate that. That's, the ripple effect. It's, the term I had learned when I read Betty Eadie's book, Embraced by the Light, back in the 90s, is that ripple effect that when you do something like this for another, and then they go out there and they do it, the ripple effect. And watching the episode, I sat there glued, and I'm like, oh my God, it was 9 years ago. I worked with this teenager that is now an adult, and he's doing this, and I was so proud of you. I got emotional a couple times because it's, you are fortunate. This kid is fortunate. Today's society, people that go through this stuff are very fortunate because in the 70s, it was taboo. When we had stuff happening in my house and I had dreams that come true, sure, my mom was there, but she would say, and my dad would say, don't go telling people, don't tell the neighbors. They're going to think we're crazy. And sure enough, yeah, they thought we were crazy because some of the stuff that went on in the house. But today, sure, you're going to still get a little bit of some skepticism here and there, but it's more open. It can be talked about. It's discussed at the dinner table. It's discussed on the train or the airplane. People are more open to it than they were back in the 70s. So you guys are really lucky. But what's fortunate is that you guys all have one another and you guys can share that. And now I feel a part of the big family because what I didn't have as a kid, I can make damn sure with the work that I do. And now seeing that someone unlike yourself and even Alex, I see Alex is going to be in the show, and I worked with Alec, and I'm just like, oh my God, the stuff he went through. Now I can't wait to see what he's going to be doing too, because it's like a sports team. You have these players come on, you put people in certain positions, and as time goes on, they become comfortable with the position and they excel. You have like this winning team. And even though we don't all work together, I'm right there beside you, and I know you're right there where you don't need my assistance, you don't need anything else because you have grown and had your own experiences and you're doing what you do. And I just, dude, I'm just proud of you,
Well, I do appreciate that. And I know that there's been a lot of, controversy about, psychic kids airing and you and Chip and Kim not being a part of it. And I always tell everybody, I make sure to comment on everything that I see because I want people to know that we might not have the same exact ways of mentoring, the same exact ways of expressing what we believe. But
right.
You and Chip and Kim are in our hearts. You are the reason why I said yes to mentoring, because I knew how you helped me. And I knew I had to come full circle in life and do what you did for me for these children. And you and Chip and Kim are as much of mentors in the reboot of Psychic Kids as us mentoring, because you three are the ones that kind of, in a sense, I don't know if I want to use the word created, but created us. And how all three of you touched our hearts. It made a difference in our life that was so life-changing that 9 years later, we're doing this.
Oh, thank you.
So we can give thanks back to you in order to say, you know what, thank you, Chris. This is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to help like you helped me for you.
Well, that's what it's all about, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And you're right. I know that when this first came out, there was a little bit of discussion, mostly from the fans. Why isn't Chip a part of this? Why isn't Chris, or why isn't Edie? Why isn't Kim? And because Chip basically launched this show. Chip was the face for this show. When you watch the reboot, and I tell people, anybody that's still skeptical of that, whatever, watch the reboot. When you watch the reboot and you see these mentors, I don't want to call you guys kids because you're not kids, you're adults now, doing what you do, I sat there going, wow. And I tweeted it and I said, great job. I'm blown away. It's It works. And this is the next generation. And this is important because you guys are this support system. You guys are the ones that can relate to these kids even more so than we can, because you were just there recently. But then also you're still evolving. And even in that evolution, you have this wise advice for the kids you're working with. And that's the thing, is not everybody will understand this if you've never grown up psychic or you don't have anybody in your family that is. There might be this wall there, you just don't get it. But when you've gone through it and then you see people that you've coached, people you've worked with, that you've empowered, you inspired, and you see their success and you see what they're doing, Chip, Kim, Edie, and myself, we are on this show. We are there in spirit. We are there in soul. And what you are going to do for these kids is the ripple effect. Is years from now, some of them are going to be out there helping people too, or in their relationships, their families, the work that they're in, using their abilities to be even better as somebody with whatever they're doing. That's what's important. And that's life, man. It's like the tree of life. You start with the seed. It grows, it takes root, and it grows all these branches. And you guys, everybody's the branches. And then down the road, even the branches, these kids are going to inspire. That is the most important thing of life. And to watch this episode, and I haven't spoke to Chip or to Edie and see if they've watched it, but when I watched it, I had this big-ass smile on my face, and I'm like, A&E did good. The kids are doing good. The production company's doing good. This is great. This is just great. So, we're back to square one in the interview here. Coming back to first circle. I want to talk about you, Ryan, and go backwards. Now, we talked a little bit about some of the things you went through. When did it first start for you that you started recognizing you could sense things, you could see spirits? Tell us, what was it that you first recognized?
When I was 10, I just remember it just started one night. I had a dream. It was about a member of my family that was ill. She came to me every night and told me about her decline, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and that she was not going to live much longer. And she had came to me one night and said, you're going to get a call that I'm not able to communicate. I'm near my end. And it was the next day. We had received a call. She only lived a couple more days. She had told me, tomorrow is when I will pass. And then dreams, it was every night, natural disasters, just people being shot or murdered, car accidents. I mean, I was having dreams of even pets. It was being missing and families looking for pets. It was just every night my premonitions were, and I had no way of proving them, no way of knowing who these people were, but they were just devastating me because a lot of them, unfortunately, were negative. Even a pet going missing and families looking for it, to natural disasters. It was very just heartbreaking for me to see. And then I just started journaling them at 10. I was like, I'm going to write these down. This isn't right. Something's wrong with me. And I didn't tell anybody for a while. And the more I started to work with them and acknowledge them and write them down, then I started to see like shadow people next to individuals when I would go out. Then those shadow people started to have some features on them. I could see maybe some eyes as they turned, or their hands, or a little bit of their clothing. And then they started to even manifest more and more until I could see a vision or an image of an actual spirit next to a person when I would go to school or go out shopping or be with friends anytime I left my house. And it was around the age of 12 or 13 that those spirits and those energies started to communicate with me. And ever since then, my life has forced me down this path. I had came home from school one day. I had a long-lost relative that said he was living in Lilydale, New York, which I spoke about earlier. I went there. I met people, and then psychic kids happened for me when I was 16. And I started to do readings. I moved out at the age of 16 to work in this field, living on my own, dedicating my time to people and trying to help them in any way that I could. And it just, here we are again with psychic kids in my life. This was the path that was chosen for me.
Right. I'm looking at your website right now. It's psychicryan.com. That's Psychic Ryan, RYAN.com. And I like what you said here. Welcome to Ryan Michael's Psychic Site. We are changing the earth, therefore we must change for the earth. Death is not the end, it is a new start to a better life. Just because your eyes are open, do you really see? Tell us about your approach, your philosophy with the spirit world first.
So my approach or philosophy with the spirit world is I believe that we all came from one energy, one source, in a sense, God. And I believe that we are all connected so spiritually to one another, but yet we don't show a lot of time empathy for one another. We don't understand people. And everybody in life wants to be genuine. And everybody in life doesn't want to hurt or experience pain or suffering or these negative situations that occurs in our life day to day. And I believe that all people want is help to live life.
Right.
And people always ask me, what is the meaning of life? Why am I here? And I'm sure you get this question a lot too. What's my purpose? What's the meaning of life? Why am I here? Something's missing. What direction should I live? And I truly believe that can be answered with one word, and that's happiness. Why are you here? To be happy, to make people happy, to try to spread happiness. People say, well, I always felt that I should go to be for nursing or in the medical field, but why? Well, because it makes me happy.
Right.
Or, I want to be a teacher. Well, why? Because I love working with kids. It's fulfilling. It makes me happy. And that's what I try to explain to people, is to try to live your life in a way that not only do you feel happy, but the people that meet you and the people that are around you are happy also, that you've done something for them, that you've made a change, whether if it's taking groceries to a car or opening a door for someone.
Right.
And doing that and then taking the next journey. And when that time comes in all our lives that we do cross into the next realm or the energy world, the spirit world, and become part of that one, we can say we lived life in a way that brought happiness not only to ourselves, but to other people.
Absolutely.
And that's almost, in a way, recycled to the next generation, to the next generation, to the next generation. And I feel that that's where we're going wrong in this world, is that one another, because of life, which is not, if I may add, life is not meant to be easy, but it's not meant to be hard. It's truly what we make of it.
Right.
And we just can't find sympathy for people. We can't see the genuine in people anymore because of news or television or media. Just reflects people often. It's so negative in my eyes and other people's eyes that I speak to. But that's not people.
Right.
That's not who they are in their heart. And, that's my philosophy. We come from one, we are kind of in a sense recycled back into that creator, that what created always was, always will be. We are reflected as that, but people go wrong because they're not living life in a way that they are fulfilled at the end of their life.
It's interesting when you say the one word, happy, happiness, being happy. And then I sit back in my mind with some of the clients I've had and how they're unhappy. And one in particular pops up and says, I'm unhappy, so there's no such thing as happiness for me. And I would say to them, it's like my guides are, channeling through me at the moment right here, and they're saying, well, okay, you're not happy right now, so what makes you happy? And then they say, well, nothing makes me happy. And then the guide says, well, you know why nothing makes you happy? Didn't at one time this made you happy, that made you happy? Yes. Does it make you happy now? Nope, doesn't make me happy at all. Because they're not focusing on happiness, what makes them happy. They can't let go of something that makes them unhappy. So until they let go of that unhappiness, that event, or until they face it, forgive it, or if they can't forgive it, find a way to resolve it within themselves so they can move on to make room and make space for happiness. If you want to change your reality, if you say, my life sucks, this sucks, well, you've got to do something because we're in a cause-effect environment. For anything to happen, it has to be in motion. So you have to be in motion. So to change your reality, you can change your emotion to change your reality. So you can take yourself out of that environment, go do something that makes you happy. You start getting happy, and you're now looking at that situation differently. So look at it from a different frequency. So it's amazing that you say that, and then you even said the recycle of that happiness reminds me real quickly, I'll mention, a lot of my listeners remember this story, I've told it so many times, is the Janis Joplin experience, where I was put into an induced out-of-body experience. I'm on the other side with this woman who's the soul of, known as Janis Joplin, in this beautiful field with flowers and everything. I have 10 questions they had written down and handed to me to take that with me on this travel and ask her. We're walking, and all I can notice is the love and happiness in the entire environment, from the blades of the grass to the glistening of the dew that was on the flowers, to the air and the wind that was blowing through the trees. Every single organism and every single blade of grass, every flower, every even gust of the wind was all being recycled. It was sending this unconditional happiness and love to the Creator, and what was coming right back to it, allowing it to exist in this holographic world, was the same thing, happiness and love. And when I felt this and I experienced this, because as soon as I looked at it and I noticed, like, oh, I don't want to step on this blade of grass because it's so beautiful. I realized I was becoming one with it. And when I allowed myself to become one with that happiness, I was feeling unconditional love and total happiness. So much that I turned to her, and she knew I came there to ask 10 questions. She now says to me, does this answer all your questions? And I'm like, yeah, who cares about those 10 questions? Because I'm in happiness right now. I don't want to leave this overwhelming feeling of happiness and unconditional love. So we go back to what you're saying. Life is the pursuit of happiness, to make other people happy, to make yourself happy. But the problem is, sometimes people will make themselves happy at the expense of somebody else. Sometimes they will do something that's addictive or not good for them or for others that they think is making them happy, but it's just a coping mechanism. Then you have the people that aren't happy at all, and it's because they're focusing on something that makes them unhappy, which if they resolve it, they face it, they work on it, and start to replace it with happiness, they realize, I'm not this unhappy person. My true self is being this happy person, like you mentioned. That's really cool, Ryan, that you're teaching and practicing that, because that's like the law of the universe.
And I think that the law of the universe is precisely what builds and grounds and takes control of not only life, but people with abilities. And I know when I talk to people, right, and I say, are you happy? Explain why you're happy. And they say, well, I have this perfect job, and I just got, I make a lot of money at this place, and I got my dream car and my wife. And I said, what happened, or what would happen if you lost your job, your car got repossessed, and for some reason you got a divorce? Your wife wasn't happy, you got a divorce. All things that happen to many, many people in this world. And they say, well, I want to be happy, but that's not happiness. So many people reflect happiness with an aspect of their life, which is why people are truly unhappy. Happiness is not that that dream job. That creates a sense of happiness, but take that away, you should still be able to feel happy. I'll nerd out for a minute, and my favorite quote is, happiness can be found in the darkest of times if one remembers to turn on the light. Albus Dumbledore. And I believe that. Take away a relationship. We all know how that feels. That's something that I struggled with for a short period of time in my life. Take away a family member that, their journey here ends and the journey of the afterlife begins. We all know how that feels. Take away a job. Take away, a car or items, material things, and people are left feeling unhappy. But that's because their idea of happiness wasn't what happiness is. And that's where people go wrong, is they allow other people to hold their happiness in their hands. They allow items to hold that happiness. And when those no longer exist in your life, you're left lost because you don't remember when you experienced happiness without that person or without that item or without that career or without whatever was going on in your life. And happiness is within you. It's the moment that you walk outside and you just feel. I had a very spiritual awakening while filming. I was on a train to New Mexico, and I remember waking up. It was dawn. The train whistle was blowing. It woke me up, and I looked out, and we were going into a desert, and it was yellows and oranges and reds just hitting the desert, and the sky was blues and purples, and just Roy G. Biv was just like hitting me. And I saw the world for the first time for what it was. And I didn't just know, this feels beautiful, this looks beautiful, but I felt it in my heart. I got the chills. My body began to get warm as though I was having an out-of-body experience. And at the time, I was struggling with some things and wasn't in the right mindset. I was struggling with some depression and anxiety at the time. And I said to myself, why? I wake up every day. It's me in this world. And everything that makes me unhappy, I'm inviting into my life. If you're in a relationship and you don't want to be in it, you set that aside. You start new the next day. If there's that friend that just causes you stress or anxiety and makes you unhappy, you set them aside. The next day you invite something different into your life. Or that job that you just despise, they're overworking you. You wake up and you set that aside and you start searching for another career. But you invite every day into your life. You wake up, and the moment you open your eyes, it's you in this world. And everything that happens after your eyes open is because of the decision you made.
You're talking about, we sometimes, we get entitled, we get this, we don't realize what's really important. And when things get really bad, we're worried about something instead of realizing what we have. And it popped into my head. I remember back in the early 90s, I had this car that my mom, it used to be my mom's car, so I was sharing it with her, and because I had totaled my other car. And I'm with my dad. He's interrupting me, and I go through a crossroads, and I thought the crossroads had a stop sign. The guy didn't. My dad screams. I floor it, and this Mercedes-Benz hits the back of my car. We spin around. We get T-boned. The T-tops of the car comes off. The wheels and the axle come off, and we spin around, and the car jumps up and almost flipped, but lands on the sidewalk. I get out of the car, and I look at the car, and it's totaled. And the first thing I'm thinking is, oh, my God, my car's totaled. And I'm furious. My dad gets out of the car, and I look at him, and I see his head is bleeding. One of the T-tops hit his head. And then I realized that if I didn't floor it, my dad would have been killed because it was going to hit the passenger side. And then I just felt so ashamed that the first thing I didn't worry about was to see if my dad was okay. I was caring about the car. And when I looked at my dad and I saw the blood streaking down his forehead, I said, oh my God, I could have lost my dad. That is way more important than a damn car. That's the thing, is sometimes in our life, we things are removed from us, or even someone we care about, because we have to step back and we have to look at life at a different perspective. We have to realize, okay, it's up to me now, or what is truly important within my life? What do I have remaining? What do I have that is important to me? Maybe there's things in my life that are supposed to be more important to me that I'm not spending time with or I'm not pursuing. that the universe is trying to push you towards that. Maybe that's the lesson.
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the head right there when you know, because my goal is, and yours too, because you did it with me, is I want people to see these perspectives of life before it's too late. And that's where guilt and regret come in, because people see the perspectives that they wish they would have saw after it's too late, or, you know, when it's too late. And I just want people to understand life, to understand the meaning of life. And when I work with these children, that's a lot of what I talk about off, you know, that's not shown on, is I talk about, you know, this world is, you know, cause and effect, and, you know, the butterfly effect. And I talk to them just about ways of life, because to take control of your abilities, you have to have control of your life. And a lot of these children don't have control of their life. A lot of them are bullied. A lot of them are unhappy or struggling with identity. And that makes it hard. It makes it hard to take control of your abilities when you're thinking about other things constantly. If you can't get over what's happening at school, you're not going to be able to focus on your abilities. If you're having a hard life at home with family, you're not going to be able to take control of your abilities. You have to find a medium between each aspect of your life in order to take control of each aspect of your life. And yeah, there'll always be times or moments in life that you're struggling with one area, but that's also how you create wisdom and experience and knowledge, is by going through situations and problems in order to learn from them. So when they arise again, of course, you understand and know how to respond to that you don't feel the same way that it made you feel before, or react the same way that you reacted before. And that's what I'm preparing these children for, is life with their abilities. Not just their abilities, but life with their abilities.
Now, obviously, you know, with over the years of your life, and even when you were younger, you went through some skepticism. I mean, these kids are going to go through skepticism, and because everybody's got their belief systems in this world. How have you been handling skeptics? You know, and there's some nasty ones out there. They'll say that, well, it's a psychological disorder. You have problems with you. You know, you should go get help. And
you know, when I was younger,
how do you
I responded more to the skeptics than I did the people that were there for me, the people that were supporting me. And it was at certain moments in my life, I said, I'm giving all my attention to the people that don't believe rather than the people that do believe. And it was at that moment that I thought to myself, the ability to see this world for more than it is, the ability to believe that there's so much we won't understand, is so much more important than being skeptical and living life questioning and not believing that there's anything more than right now. And I say, if you can look out in this world, look at the trees and feel the wind and love your family and experience love and look in the mirror, the fact that we are existing in a world this evolved, if that doesn't prove that there's more to this world than what you can see or ever know, then it's a lost cause trying to fight with them or argue with them for them to see your way of life. Because opening your eyes every morning should tell you there's more to this world than meets the eye. And if that doesn't do it, nothing I say will do it.
How many episodes of Psychic Kids are there this season?
So there will be 8 episodes, 16 families.
Okay.
I've personally mentored 6 of the families.
So you'll be on 6 episodes?
I do believe so. If all goes well, I will be on 6.
Oh, that's great. Wow.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, it
really
is. That's fantastic. You know, and I'm looking at your webpage, which is psychicryan.com. That's PSYCHIC, of course, Psychic. Ryan, RYAN.com, looking at your page for yourself or Ryan Michaels, we've got Spiritualist, Paranormal Investigator, Psychic Medium, Paranormal Spiritual, Counselor. I mean, that's obvious with seeing your work on Psychic Kids. But you also do Reiki. You're a Reiki 1 and Reiki 2 practitioner. And it also says here paranormal consultant, missing person consultant, and spiritual healer. And for those out there, yes, we worked on a missing persons case, Ryan and I, regarding Brian Sullivan. And we still wish that a couple of these leads were followed up on. And that's all we can say. But you have done other missing person cases since then?
Yeah, so I've worked with local, state, and different agencies across the United States on not just missing person, but murder cases, rape cases, missing vehicles, vandalism, more so locally. A lot of which, of course, I'm not able to publicly speak about, but I've had some really amazing opportunities to work with government on different aspects of things. And
that's really cool. And I kind of know where it's going because you and I had a discussion back in 2010, 2011, and I had put you in contact with somebody. So it does not surprise me, Ryan.
Yeah, it was.
Does not surprise me. And that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I have to think, without you in my life would not be where it is now. And I genuinely want people to know that because I make sure you meet certain people in this world and it's fate and their advice, because advice is what you make of it. Advice is, we get advice every day, and a lot of times that's not something that's taken, but every word that you spoke to me, I made the decision. I want my life to change. I want to work with these abilities, and I had taken every area of advice that you gave to me. And doing so is why I am where I am, because of you. Yeah, family was involved, but family leads you in a very different direction in life than having a paranormal or sensitive mentor to lead you and direct you in that area of your life. And it's a thanks that I can never truly give you.
Well, no. Well, thank you. And the thing is, and I don't know if I've said this for the first time, but, as time has gone on, it's because of you, because of Nicole, because of Alec, because of, I've got all the other names and I forgot their names. All the other kids that I've worked with, Vicky and so on, that I've kept in touch with. And I just talked to Colt not too long ago and Bryson years ago. It's because of you guys. For me, it's because of you guys that makes me realize now I know what I went through as a kid, why I went through it as a kid, that you guys have given me purpose. And the things that I'm doing now with prayers for the dead and the souls that are trapped here, as well as people that have negative demonic attachments and confronting those, because I confronted these things when I was a kid, another elevation of my purpose. That when I watch the show and I see this, and yes, we all learn from our teachers and our mentors, but us teachers and us mentors, it gives us purpose when we have students like yourself and we see what you're doing with it, that thank God I went through those challenges in my life. Thank God I'm doing what I'm doing because now a part of me is now with you and then a part of you is with everybody else, and it goes on, and that goes back to the ripple effect. But you give me purpose. All the kids that I've worked with, the people that go through this stuff, because when I was a kid, having these things happen, and my dad wants me to play hockey or play sports, which I love sports, and I wanted to be an artist, I wanted to be this. I had no identity because I was always fighting this of what I was dealing with, is I couldn't mix that. I couldn't do this in art. I couldn't do this in other different things until I realized this is really who I am. And the only way I can express who I am, such as a painter painting on canvas, by expressing it, is by working with people that need help and people that go on and do great things. That gives me purpose, that I made a difference. Such as you, as Perry, and the other kids on the show that are out there now giving purpose to these other kids and to these other families. And that is what this show is about.
Absolutely.
Well, Ryan, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I've told everybody that's listening to check out your website, psychicryan.com. Is there any other ways people will get a hold of you, or should they just go there?
Yeah, no, I use a lot of social media. So just to, if they want to connect and be a part of the journey that you started for me, and now that I'm on with Psychic Kids, Ryan Michaels, Psychic Medium on Facebook, Psychic Medium _ Ryan Michaels on Instagram, and at Medium Ryan on Twitter to follow my journey and these kids' journey on Psychic Kids. And I would love to connect with people and to have them part of everything that I've been experiencing and everything that these children are experiencing.
Everybody that's listening, check out Psychic Kids. It is on A&E right after Ghost Hunters. It's on Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Time and 10 p.m. Pacific Time. Now, if you're on Central Time, that's going to be 9 p.m. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. And please support these kids for what they're doing. They're making a difference to these younger kids and to the families. So, Ryan, I want to thank you for being on this episode of Spirit Talk. What are you doing next?
Next, I just want to keep in contact with these children. I'm going to be dedicating a lot of time to doing presentations. I want to inform the public about the paranormal, about my purpose and a way of life that people should live, which we talked about throughout this podcast, and just try to get people to live a life in a way that they can be fulfilled, feel fulfilled, and to live life in a way that they experience happiness.
That's great. Thank you for doing so. I know, if I can speak for them, Edie, myself, and Chip are proud of all of you and what you're doing, and we wish you the best of luck.
And thank you so much. And I truly thank you for thinking of me, for being part of your podcast. It means a lot. I loved keeping in communication with you over the years, and it means a lot that we were able to do this.
Absolutely. And like I tell all the kids I work with, we're family. So I'm only a phone call away.
We are. We are.
Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. You've been listening to Chris Fleming and Ryan Michaels from the new reboot show, Psychic Kids, on Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific Time, and 9 p.m. Central on A&E. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next episode.